President Fattah al-Sisi arrived in Djibouti on Thursday to hold summit talks with President of the Republic of Djibouti, Ismail Omar Guelleh. Upon his arrival, the President was received by his Djiboutian counterpart, and an official reception ceremony was held for the President. After their summit talks, the two leaders held a joint press conference. President al-Sisi expressed appreciation for the warm reception and the hospitality of the Djiboutian people. He expressed pleasure to be the first Egyptian president to visit Djibouti. President al-Sisi said that he had constructive summit talks with the President, who covered a number of issues, including facilitating the access of the Egyptian products to the Djiboutian markets. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassem Rodi said that during the talks, President al-Sisi affirmed Egypt's keenness in boosting bilateral ties in all fields. Rodi said that the two presidents agreed on the need to reach a just and legal binding agreement on the filling of the reservoirs of the Ethiopia's dam and rules for operating it. The two leaders also agreed on boosting cooperation between the two countries on fighting terrorism in the Horn of Africa. Also, the two leaders discussed various files related to joint cooperation and means of boosting bilateral ties, especially in security, military and economic fields. Radi added that such cooperation aims at achieving the interests of the two brotherly countries and embodies the mutual strong will of and strengthen cooperation frameworks between the two countries. In addition, the Egyptian-Djiboutian summit also covered views on the most important developments regarding regional issues of common interest. Still with President Fattah al-Sisi, who visited Djibouti, is the first by a head of state to the African country. The diplomatic relations between the two countries was established since the independence of Djibouti in 1977, and an Egyptian embassy was opened since then. More details on the Egyptian-Djiboutian ties in the following report.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi started on Thursday a historic visit to Djibouti to hold a summit meeting with counterpart Ismail Omar Guelleh. The visit is the first of its kind, as no Egyptian president has ever visited Djibouti. The diplomatic relations between the two countries was established since the independence of Djibouti in 1977, and the Egyptian embassy was opened since then. Ahead of his visit, President al-Sisi was keen on holding phone talks with Djibouti President Ismail Omar Guelleh. During the talks, President al-Sisi has stressed Egypt's firm stance on the need to reach a legally binding agreement on the filling and operation of the Ethiopian dam on the Blue Nile. The two sides agreed on the importance of settling this crisis to avert its negative impact on the security and stability of the whole region. They also discussed a number of topics of cooperation between the two countries, particularly on the economic level, trade and investment. President Guelleh asserted his appreciation of the historical relations binding the two countries, referring to the broad prospects of boosting the ties and cooperation in different domains. Ahead of the president's visit, two Egyptian military jets carrying food and medical aid arrived in Djibouti to support the fellow African state in the face of COVID-19. Two military aid planes took off from Eastern Cairo Air Base Wednesday carrying large quantities of medicines, medical supplies and food, heading to Djibouti. Djiboutian officials expressed appreciation for the Egyptian efforts and its support for the people, helping them to face challenges. Earlier this year, a high-level Egyptian delegation led by Assistant Foreign Minister for African Affairs Sharif Issa visited Djibouti to discuss boosting bilateral ties and hold political consultations with officials there. The delegation included representatives from different ministries and companies as well as businessmen. The Foreign Ministry said that the delegation had a plenary session of talks with senior officials in Djibouti, with Egypt's ambassador to Djibouti attending. The meetings included talks with the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Health, Energy, Infrastructure and Transport, Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Muslim Affairs and Charitable Assets, and Communication and Culture, in addition to the Governor of the Central Bank of Djibouti, the Chairman of the Djibouti Ports and Free Zones Authority, and other officials. The two sides discussed means of strengthening bilateral cooperation in all domains, including the economic, trade and investment ones. During the visit, the two sides also discussed the means of benefiting from the Egyptian expertise in the various areas. The Djiboutian side also agreed on giving a license to an Egyptian company to operate flights between the two countries to facilitate the movement of passengers and goods. Djibouti also allowed an Egyptian bank to work in the country. The two sides also mulled the promising investment opportunities in Djibouti means of benefiting from the ports and technical support offered by the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development. The talks also focused on scholarships given by Egypt's Al-Azhar, the Sunni Muslim world's top religious institution, along with training more Djiboutian preachers and setting up Al-Azhar Institute in Djibouti.
And dear viewers, for an in-depth look into President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's historic visit to Djibouti, we're joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. A very good day, sir.
Good day to you. How are you?
Sir, this is the first visit of its kind by an Egyptian president to Djibouti. How do you read the president's keenness in boosting ties with Djibouti?
I am very glad to see such a visit because as you rightly said, we were always concentrating on some very close Arab countries, or the big ones. Djibouti, Comoros, Somalia, and Mauritania are the least developed Arab countries, and we have to maintain relations day to day. And of course, we are helping all these countries, Djibouti among them, with all what we can do. But it's not enough. We lack what we call the Air Force diplomacy or the presidency diplomacy, the summits. And because you can solve a lot of problems in a meeting like that. And of course, you can imagine that they discuss every single file, whether in the interest of the bilateral relations, the regional relations within the Arab League, or in the Mediterranean, also the international files where everybody is trying to help the situation for security and peace and stability. So I really appreciate very much such a visit, and I expect this will bring Djibouti more and more closer to Cairo, to the League of Arab States, and to be an active member, much more active member in the Arab League.
So what are the main fields of cooperation between the two sides?
Of course, it covers everything, trade, and we have, as you well know, a free trade area among all the members of the Arab states in the Arab League. But for Djibouti, Comoros, and Mauritania and Somalia, we give them the privilege to export to us without any custom duties or trade barriers, while we allow them to impose custom duties on our exports because of the difference of the development rate in both countries. So trade is very important. Now the main goal of our new presidency that we want more and more investment, because as a matter of fact, trade is going not bad, but there is a problem among the Arab countries that we do not produce all our needs, and 70% of what we import we do not produce. So the answer to all of that is investment in areas where we do not produce, to gain position in the machine industry, in the transport industry, and in agriculture, and of course in the services. All of these areas need more and more investment, and we know that. And as long as we concentrate on supporting the goals like that, we shall continue, of course, to ameliorate the relation and deepening it along the way.
Also mentioned facilitating the access of the Egyptian products to the Djiboutian markets.
Exactly. We are doing that, but as I told you, we accept that Djibouti impose custom duties on our exports to them because they are relatively a needy country. They cannot exempt us from custom duties.
What
But
can
depends on
Egypt
our
what can Egypt
producers
sir,
also. I invite
sir, what
them
can Egypt
to visit
export to
such a
Djibouti?
market to see what do they need.
Yes, exactly. This is my question. What do they need from Egypt? What will Egypt export to Djibouti?
In the Arab world, we need three things. Industry of machines, we do not produce any sort of machine. We need to produce means and ways of transport. We do not produce any means or ways of transport. And the most
You mean
important
Djibouti,
the
Djibouti
food industry. Agriculture and food industry is very important to all of us. We import 50% of our food needs out of the Arab world. So any investment in this sector is welcomed all the time.
So how do you see the Egyptian-African relations now, and how are they developing from your own point of view?
It is getting much better, and I am so happy that if you take the COMESA countries, the 21 countries of the COMESA, you will find that we tripled our trade with them because of the free trade area. Now, during the presidency of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the African Union, we come to a very ambitious project, which is a larger free trade area, which will combine all the African countries, 51 countries with inhabitants of 1,200 million inhabitants. This is one of the largest markets in the world. And of course, we can do a lot there, but still we have a lot of duties to do. Still Africa needs to ameliorate the transport situation. The banking system is in need of development. Bureaucracy is killing any projects we can try to do. So many things have to be done, and I think we already started this process, and I hope it will continue much more faster.
Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant to Foreign Ministry, we thank you so much for joining us and for your informative knowledge. Thank you so much, and we continue with the news bulletin, where U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken headed home from Jordan Thursday after a Middle East tour on which he called for regional cooperation to consolidate a ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian fighters. Blinken visited Egypt as part of his Middle East tour and held talks with President Fattah al-Sisi. The meeting tackled the developments of the Palestinian cause and ways to revive the Middle East peace process in the wake of the latest developments in the Palestinian territories. The meeting also tackled the Renaissance Dam file as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stressed the importance to reach a just, fair and binding legal agreement on filling and operating the dam and achieves the common goals of all sides. During his tour, Blinken met both the Israeli and Palestinian leaders during 2 days of talks, throwing Washington's support behind the Egyptian brokered truce that ended 11 days of heavy Israeli bombing of Gaza. President Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call through video conference from German Chancellor Angela Merkel. And during the call, Merkel praised the Egyptian-German friendly ties, which represent a pillar of security and stability in the Middle East. Merkel also stressed the keenness to continue coordination and consultation with President Fattah al-Sisi on various regional and international issues of common concern. For his part, President al-Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to consolidate the existing partnership with Germany, adding that Egypt is looking forward to maximizing bilateral cooperation in various political, economic and security issues. The call tackled a number of regional issues, especially the Palestinian cause. The German Chancellor praised the Egyptian efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. President al-Sisi emphasized Egypt's vision of the necessity to work immediately to resume direct negotiations between the Palestinian and Israeli sides. Egypt reported 1,151 new coronavirus infections on Wednesday, bringing the total number of cases to 257,275 people since the outbreak hit the country in mid-February of last year. The Health Ministry also reported 43 fatalities, bringing the total number of deaths to 14,850. The ministry added that 876 patients were discharged from hospitals, rising the number of those who have recovered to 188,567 people.